If you want to learn how to source affordable vehicles without being scammed, make sure you stay till the very end of this video because I'm going to walk you through everything I learned in the last 5 years when it comes to sourcing vehicles, but most importantly, not being scammed when you do it because the car business is filled with sharks. All right, guys, so I've worked with hundreds of clients so far, and one of the #1 complaints I've been seeing from people before they work with us is that they got scammed buying their first vehicle. It is unfortunate that in the car industry, there are so many scammers out there that you have to be on your guard, but it doesn't matter if it's unfortunate. That's the reality of what it actually is. So we're gonna make sure you are prepared to defend against it, to make sure your first purchase isn't your last. So one of the first things I always do when sourcing a vehicle, get the VIN number. So for those who don't know what a VIN number is, that's a vehicle identification number. Think about it as a social security with a person. By having this VIN number, you can look up the complete history of the vehicle. You can take a look at the maintenance of the car. You can make sure that it's not an R title, a salvage title. You can make sure that the odometer is not rolled back, because a trick in the car industry is people will actually go into the machinery of the vehicle and change the miles on it to make them lower than what they actually are. Unfortunately, one of my clients about a year ago, before he worked with us at Car Rental Coach, purchased a vehicle that was a Toyota Prius, and it said that the vehicle only had 60,000 miles on it, but when he went to go list it on Turo, it came back that it wasn't eligible because the vehicle actually had over 200,000 miles on it. Now, that was a complete shock. I helped him sell the vehicle and was able to fix the title, and we had to go through a lot of legal hoops to help him out. But that is something that simply could have been avoided by having the CarFax or some other report done first. So I know CarFax can be pretty expensive. Sometimes they run the reports about $50 a piece, but that's one option. And then just doing a quick Google search, you can find many others that will keep you from having to buy a bad vehicle right from the start. So other things to look at on these reports. Now guys, when I say R titles, so sometimes a vehicle can actually be a total loss vehicle and the owner can still buy back the car, but now it's going to have a bad title, and that's not eligible for Turo. And even if you do private rentals, a lot of private insurance companies aren't going to allow that. So I stay away from that completely. And that is why it is so important to do a search on that from the very start and pay the $5 to $10 to run the report and to make sure you are covered, because that is one of the biggest mistakes I've seen people make time and time again. And let me tell you this, from clients that I work with, a lot of people go on Facebook Marketplace. I think Facebook Marketplace is a great resource and one of the best ways to find affordable cars. But keep in mind, it's going to be like finding a needle in a haystack to a certain extent. You're going to have to sift through it. You're going to have to take your time, and you're going to want to make sure you don't get scammed, because that's where most of the scammers I've seen live on. And if you're ever asking somebody on Marketplace to buy a vehicle and they decide that they don't want to give you the VIN number, don't even bother messaging them back again. It doesn't make any sense. It's a complete waste of your time, and they are trying to do something fraudulent by hiding that VIN number, because anybody doing good business would never hide that. And you would be so amazed by how many VIN numbers that I've run on Facebook Marketplace. It's honestly in the thousands at this point. And I'd say about 50% of them come back with something that would make the vehicle ineligible for Turo. And if I were to have started my business on that foot, I don't think I'd still be doing this. I mean, imagine this. Imagine if you bought a $15,000 car, even $10,000 car, you go to list it on Turo and it says it's rejected because of the title on the car. Now you're out your money, and good luck calling up the Facebook Marketplace person you bought it off of and getting your money back. So now your only options are a civil suit, right? But I always like the old adage, you can't get blood from a rock. So at a certain point, when you're tying up legal fees, they can push this stuff back for years, guys. It just doesn't make any sense. So always, always, always make sure it's a clean title and check the VIN. But now I'm gonna go into one that wasn't as obvious when I started, where I didn't get scammed, but I actually made a mistake myself that almost cost me the business. And this one is something that I did not ever think to check when starting out the business 5 years ago. All right, guys, so the big mistake I made was in the open recall area. So for those who don't know, a recall is when a company comes out with some sort of safety recall or some other sort of recall where the vehicles are considered not safe, or sometimes they're not that bad, but there's something that needs fixed on the vehicle, and the company offers to then fix that for anybody whose vehicle was eligible with this defect with the car. So the company will actually fix it for free. So for example, let's say Kia put out an open safety recall for a fire hazard or something like that. So if they do a fire hazard, you would bring the vehicle in, schedule an appointment, and they would actually fix it free of charge. And that's not a problem for a vehicle to have an open recall, right? Doesn't actually matter. A lot of the vehicles I buy have open recalls because I can get them fixed for free. The issue with the open recall is when there is not a remedy for it, and you never know if there's going to be a remedy for it unless you check. So let me get into the big mistake I made when starting out. I believe in diversification very heavy when it comes to your vehicles because of this open recall risk factor when it comes to building your fleet. When starting out, I had about 10 cars, 5 of them were Hyundais, 5 of them were Kia Souls. Because Kia Souls are one of my favorite cars to rent if you're able to find ones for certain years. There's so many on the market, and they're not my favorite car to drive at all. I don't really like the way they even look, but renters love them because of the extra space. But anyways, I kept buying these Kia Souls, and I was buying them from the same year because I was able to find so many good deals on them. So now I have 5 Kia Souls. They're all renting great, making great cash flow. I made sure every single one of them was checked out. They were killing it. But here's what happened. Kia came out with an open safety recall for a fire hazard where I guess these vehicles had some sort of flammable issue. I don't know the exact details of it. But when that happened, all 5 of the Kia Souls were unlisted on Turo instantly and not being able to be rented. So guys, I'm not gonna lie, at that point I panicked a little bit. I didn't know what to do. I have overhead with this business. At that time, I was even having somebody part-time helping detail the cars at certain points. And this was gonna really just mess up the complete trajectory of the business. And I called Kia thinking, okay, well, you know, maybe they'll have a fix for it. Well, guys, guess what? They didn't have a fix for it. And when I spoke to them, I spoke to corporate, I emailed as many people as I could. But at a point, you can only get so far when you're talking about giant companies like this. They said they had no idea when there was gonna be a recall fix. And what I did, which is smart, I had 2 options. I could either weather the storm and kept the vehicles and not being able to rent them until, you know, maybe Kia eventually comes out with something, or I could sell them and then diversify and build smarter so this doesn't happen again. Well, what I did, sold all the vehicles, was able to get the majority of my money back, and I still came out positive from the time I was able to rent the cars, and I replaced them. But if I would have waited, it took Kia 8 months until they fixed this recall, 8 entire months. So that would have been 8 months of sitting on these cars not being able to rent them, just hoping that one day I was gonna get a call from Kia saying everything was fixed. Guys, that is disgusting, and that can wipe your entire business out. So I still buy a lot of similar year makes and models, and I still have probably 7 Kia Souls in the fleet right now, but I have over 50 vehicles. So that's not a big portion of my actual car. So if those go down, whatever, I still have tons of things that are making money, and I have them of different years. So the year really matters. So say you buy 3 2017s and they're all affected, well, that could really hurt. But that's why always check if there's an open recall on the car before you buy it, and double check to make sure there's a remedy, because that is of major, major importance and can derail your entire business. And guys, that's why clients come and work with us every single day to work with the largest car rental coaching community there is in the world. So we get clients every single day that rely on our expertise to look at the last 5 years and thousands of cars that we've looked at with research. We do complete market analysis of your areas. We guide you on the proper insurance setup. We even help you build websites to get into the private rental space. And we encompass everything that's actually needed to build a car rental company while building a community with hundreds of other hosts within our Slack channels that all benefit each other, get on weekly calls, and help each other. Because we are in this to build a community that is about making money, not just building some small passive income. Everybody that we work with is building real income of thousands of dollars every single month. And we have even bigger things on the way. Recently, we actually got a cosign from Rick Ross, one of the most famous entrepreneurs in America. For any of you guys who don't know who the biggest boss is, multi 7, 8-figure entrepreneur owning everything from Wingstop chains to champagne brands to one of the biggest car shows in all of America. He's a platinum selling artist. But hear what the biggest boss himself has to say about how Car Rental Coach is doing big business.
Big boss Rick Ross, salute Car Rental Coach. Y'all doing it big, handling big business, and good looking for always using that slippery soap, baby. Keep hustling, keep winning. Boss Rick Ross.
Guys, at Car Rental Coach, sure, I've worked with professional athletes to help them build fleets. And I know Rick Ross, an A-list celebrity, one of the biggest cosigns you can actually have. But at the end of the day, I love working with big names. I love working with famous people. But we do this for people just like you, the average person that wants to get started building a rental car fleet. I started out with nothing and was able to become the largest Turo host in all of Pittsburgh. And I've been helping others in every single market across the United States. Hear from one of my great clients, and now someone I get to call a friend, Glenn Hernandez, how we helped him actually quit his job and go into this profession full time.
Hello everyone. A little bit about myself. My name's Glenn. I'm 54 years old, married, wife, and 3 kids. Wanted to share my amazing experience with Car Rental Coach. If you're thinking about starting a Turo business or you're struggling to get it off the ground, you need to really talk to these guys. When I first started Turo, I did it blindly without a mentor, and this is years ago. I didn't have anyone to help guide me along the way. I made it work, but it was so stressful for me. Unfortunately, I did stop Turo, and since then I regretted it. A few years later, I wanted to try Turo again, and quite honestly, I was overwhelmed again. Then I found Car Rental Coach, and it completely changed the game for me. Peter made the onboarding process really easy. He took the time to understand my goals and what I was looking for. He asked the right questions. He even did some market research for me real quickly, and I was thinking that the downtown area would be my main focus, but he actually pointed out that my own residential area would be a better fit for me, and he was right. Once I was onboarded, I was then introduced to George, and let me tell you, George is a Turo listing master. He walked me through everything step by step and made it simple for me to list my first vehicle in Turo. And within 2 hours, I had my first trip booked in 2 hours. Since then, I've been consistently booked, and my business is going to be well underway. I even added 2 more cars to my fleet using the same method George taught me, and like before, both cars were booked within a day of being listed. It was incredible. I've never seen anything like it before. George is still teaching me new techniques and strategies, and I'm learning so much along the way. My goal is to have 10 cars this year, and I know George is going to help me get there. We're slowly working on adding more cars, a couple more cars right now actually, and again, I'm going to be on my way to my goal of 10. He also has tons of resources, and he actually helps set up insurance for me and GPS monitoring. And truly, what really sets these guys apart, Car Rental Coach, is Peter and George are always available to answer any of my questions. They're incredibly responsive and supportive, and you can tell that they genuinely care about my success. So if you're curious about Turo and and want to do it right from the get-go, check out Car Rental Coach. The very first step is the hardest, but they do make it so much easier. Just fill out the questionnaire on the website, see if you're a good fit, and trust me, you won't be disappointed. Thanks again for listening, and take care.
And guys, to get results like the biggest boss and my good friend Glenn go to carrentalcoach.com, fill out our quick 60-second survey, and see if you qualify to work with us. And remember, we're not just some course with outdated information. We work with you one-on-one as part of the community. You're getting on calls with me, you're getting on calls with our team, and we are building a custom tailored plan, and we work 7 days a week to make sure that you hit your goals. But now I'm going to tell you about something else where I've seen so many people in the car industry lose money. It's called purchasing a bad vehicle because you think you know more about cars than you actually do. So people are surprised to hear this all the time. It's not something I used to feel confident sharing, but as I become more and more successful, I like to let people know. I don't know everything about the mechanics of a vehicle, enough to actually work on them myself. Sure, I've learned a lot of things and know more about cars than the average person, but my expertise is knowing how to make a successful car rental business. So I've always relied on the expertise of professional mechanics and people that have actually gone to school for that to assist me with making my best decisions. Just like if you were buying real estate and you would hire a home inspector to take a look at the house. Sure, there's great real estate agents that are making tons of money and great real estate investors, but a lot of times they're outsourcing the actual looking at the house because we can't be an expert in every single field if we want to be successful with growing our business. So we've seen so many people go out, buy cars without getting any pre-purchase inspection from Facebook Marketplace and even used car dealers. Because guys, like I said, these used car dealers are sharks. You have to have somebody in this industry that has your back, whether that's local connections or working with people like us. But make sure you have people that have your back, that know what they're doing in this, so you don't lose out on tons of money. But people aren't doing the pre-purchase inspection for one reason or another. Most people don't know it exists. What you can actually do, you can have somebody go out to the car for you, like a licensed mechanic, an inspector, who's gonna hook up a code reader to the car, find any codes that are stored in the engine, any issues. They'll do a complete background check on the car, look through the history. They'll look at the car with a flashlight, get underneath of it, look at the frame, test drive it, and give you their full diagnosis to make sure you're making an educated decision when it comes to purchasing the car. Just like when you would purchase a house. This is a big investment. And we have a lot of connections here at Car Rental Coach where we can get those pre-inspection reports as cheap as $200 or under for people to come out and look at your cars and assist with the entire process. And if that saves you thousands and thousands of dollars, don't you think that's something that would make sense before pulling the trigger and then having regret later? Because you're not just losing out on the cost of the vehicle when you lose that money, you're losing trust in your customer when you rent that car for the first time and something bad happens and now they're stranded on the side of the road and that's how your business starts. I know that's not ideal, and guess what happened to me on my first rental 5 years ago? Exactly that. I didn't have a pre-purchase inspection. I thought I knew more about the car than I did. It was a Chevy Sonic on a platform that was called Hire Car that's now out of business. I wonder why, but it's probably because they didn't vet their customers the best. I had a vehicle overheated. I drove myself personally to come pick them up. And after everything was done with the tow and the car, my first rental cost me $500. And my wife and I were sitting there talking about it and said, does this make financial sense to really focus our time on this? Because we had other ventures and have been very successful in business. And I thought, oh man, what a bumpy start. But after talking to her more, I had a vision. I just realized that I needed mentorship. I paid for that, hired people, learned from others, kept growing, made a lot more mistakes on the way, but was able to realize that before any car goes out, it needs inspected. And if before you purchase, you're gonna wanna do a pre-purchase inspection. So we have lots of connections for that, but you can simply do a Google search, probably find something like that too, guys. But that is a trick and tip that has saved me thousands and thousands of dollars as this career has advanced that I want to make sure you're doing and make sure you're buying your first car right. All right, guys, and one big piece of advice to not getting scammed is to make sure you have the right team with you. Right here, we have Peter, always doing research on market reports. We have my wife, Kirsten, over there, helps with ordering the parts through our connections by having a dealership. But what does this mean for you? So in your local market, you're going to want to make sure that you have a trusted mechanic, a trusted body guy, somebody that's able to help you get duplicate keys when it comes to keys going missing. That's very common with Turo, with people not returning the cars or issues like that. So you need to have the right network of people to make sure that you're not getting taken advantage of. In the car market, I have seen so many people lose all of their money because they go with a mechanic that should not be trusted. So how do you verify these people? I mean, you got to use your common sense to a point, but take a look at their reviews and always act bigger than you are when you start your rental business. What do I mean by that? Well, when you go in there, even if you have 1 or 2 cars, let them know the vision. Say you are building a rental car fleet and you are in the rental car business. You won't believe how many mechanics, tracker installation shops, and all of these people that have given me better deals, even when I was small with under 5 cars, because I let them know the vision in what I was building, because they knew I wasn't just going to be a one-time customer. They saw the dollar signs with the continued relationship that benefits both of us. And another thing, guys, besides just the people in your local market, you want to have some sort of mentor. Whether you work with us at Car Rental Coach or not, make sure you have somebody that's educated in your life in this business, because you don't want to make all of the same mistakes that I did over the first few years of this business. And then in year 3, where I really started crushing it and doing well, because I know how much time it takes. So guys, go to carrentalcoach.com and see if you qualify to work with us, and we'll see you in the next one.